Good afternoon to everybody. I am P. Andre Wilson, and it is another day that we're able to have a conversation. So I want to take the point of personal privilege to thank Lydia Chapman. She is the founder of not only Lioness Den, but she's also the founder and the visionary for Lions Den. And I have the opportunity to be a guest host with Lions Den on today. And we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation, allow you to eavesdrop in on some things, some matters on our heart as men that we'd like to share with you. So I want you to just sit back, relax, and just eavesdrop in. But don't just eavesdrop, but I hope that you are able to walk away from this conversation with my special guest having a different perspective of manhood. At this time, I want to introduce my good friend and brother, Charlie Taylor. He is not only a friend and a brother, but Charlie is actually a pastor. He's a teacher. He's an advocate. There's so many things that can describe this man, but I'll just choose the simpler term and the more meaningful term. He's a friend. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Taylor, let's welcome him in as he comes in. Charlie Taylor, how you doing, man?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me at the Lions Den. Oh, the Lions Den today, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We some Lions, and we coming abroad today. I wanted to have a conversation with you because I know that you're an advocate. You are a leader. You're a husband. You're a father, and there's so many things that you are in regards to the roles that you play. But at the end of the day, before you're anything to anybody else, you're a man. You are a man. And often, I don't think the sisters really realize how challenging it is for us as men. I don't really think they realize how challenging it is for us as men. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a conversation today.
Okay.
The title of this segment is Matters of the Heart, when men speak out.
Who?
And so let's have the conversation. I want to, under this main topic or this subject matter of matters of the heart when men speak out, I want to start with the first installment and title it with the subtitle, It's Time to Snitch. It's time to snitch. It's time to snitch. Okay, so let me just bring you into this conversation as
Please do.
It's time to snitch. So often, men, our makeup, it's our nature to often suppress our emotions. We are introduced from an early age of this whole notion of big boys don't cry. And so that's complicated for me as a man to even pass that down to my son, who's a teenager. Big boys don't cry, because what that has done is, in an attempt to make sure men's masculinity is rough and tough, built for tough, we've produced men who suppress their emotions. And so as a consequence, the sisters, I know they're eavesdropping in today, a lot of times they are not able to get to the root of some of the matters of our heart because we've been taught to suppress. And so I want to take some time and just start snitching today, and just start opening up. We got to snitch. Here's why. Because for so long, our emotions are in witness protection. And so since I'm busting loose today, I figured you bust loose out of witness protection and just put it all on the line. So as it relates to sharing your heart as a man, how do you confront that? What have you dealt with some challenges in speaking out and sharing about your heart?
Well, thank you. It's a very good question. I've had the opportunity to sit in on some conversations with other men, and we speak from the heart. Time to snitch, huh? Yeah, a lot of times we have been indoctrinated to suppress ideas, to behave a certain way because, quote unquote, that's how men supposed to behave, which is maybe at one time it was true, but in 2023, I'm not sure if that applies. We have different standards now because a lot of us do not have to conform to those practice of, real men don't cry. Yeah, real men cry because real men have feelings. Yeah, it's time to snitch. Real men cry because real men have feelings. Real men have the ability to articulate how they want to be treated, the way they want to communicate, the way they want people to respond to them. And if you're not being forthright, anybody might treat you in any old kind of way.
Absolutely.
And that could be dangerous.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
absolutely.
I don't conform to that, Dre.
So in your experience, because I know you work with a lot of men, and you lead a men's ministry aside from pastoring a church, what do you think one of the biggest challenges as relates to getting men to open up? Because as you said, suppression is not a healthy mode of dealing with, in the words of our elders, what ails us. And we have a lot of ailing issues as men, especially as men of color. We have a lot of issues as relates to not always knowing how to navigate life in being a man. You have brothers that get in relationships and they've never seen it modeled out for them as it relates to being able to open up and talk. Here's the thing that I think a lot of people deal with, and you can go ahead and chime in. As soon as somebody say to us, "What's wrong?" the first thing that is an automatic response, "I'm okay." And really, a brother can be dying on the inside, but because we're so used to automatically saying, "I'm okay," do you think the response or the reply, "I'm okay," is because it's not only an issue we've been so used to keeping it shut up inside, but is it also an issue that people really can't handle if we open up and say what's wrong with us?
I believe you're right on both ends. Okay. When you're going through your crisis, when you're going through your stuff, when things are going through your mind, a lot of times you would tell people you're okay because, one, you don't want to deal with the direct, uncomfortable conversation you got to have with that person because, one, yes, you may not even trust them. Mm-hmm. Everybody can't handle your stuff. You don't even want everybody to even touch your stuff, and I understand that. But unlike the opposite sex, they're going to talk about it. They're going to get a support group. They're going to be able to share with each other the affairs, the concerns on their heart. But we try to suppress it. We don't want to talk about it. We tell people that we're okay, and you're not okay. Now, and if we begin to talk about it, listen to other people for other experiences, it's almost like the expression of eating fish. You take the meat, mm-hmm, spit out the bones.
Yes, sir.
At least you have the meat there, and you can use that information to make sound decisions, sound choices. But on the other hand, you made a good point. There are some people you really don't want touching your stuff because they haven't even touched their stuff. I'm sorry. Yeah. Did I say that? Yeah. They haven't even touched their stuff. So sometimes you got people who are trying to give you advice. It's a little hard to catch advice from a single man, and you're married. Mm-hmm. No, because we don't have the same experiences. So a lot of times when I'm listening to who's offering the advice, I consider the source. I look at the person and say, can this person really uh, understand and relate to the challenges that I have? Can they really understand and relate to the task that I have to complete on this thing called life, my life? So
Absolutely.
that's how I feel.
You brought up a couple points, and I'm sitting here taking notes because you're touching on some real things that I would hope every brother would consider. You spoke of the aspect of trust, and I know with personal experience, and I'm sure you know as well, in just dealing with brothers, when a brother finally opens up and share, more often than not, it's been bottled up for so long. It goes back to that suppression piece. It seems like brothers have a tendency, all of us, and I think all of us have experienced this, where by the time it comes out, it's reached this boiling point. And it's been simmering for a long time until it starts to reach its boiling point, and then it's whistling. And by that time, it is spilling everywhere. You spoke of the trust aspect. I find myself in this predicament. There are a lot of people I don't really trust to handle the vulnerable aspect of me.
Gotcha.
In the same vein, I'm the one that others can trust as it relates to handling their vulnerability. Because we live in a digital social media age now. And as sad as it is to say it, some things you open up and share, you would open up and share with confidence that this person that I am sharing is going to guard not only my vulnerability, but guard whatever truth I'm trying to convey. And it's like this. I'll put it this way. When a man is dealing with an issue, correction is not the problem nearly as much as letting me be heard. Because too often when brothers share, it's almost as if they're met with resistance, especially, when we're dealing with sisters. The title of this whole, conversation is Matters of the Heart, when men speak out. And a lot of men feel like they cannot share because if I share, it may be used against me later.
Okay.
So rather than open up and share what's on my heart, I'm going to keep my emotions in witness protection. I'm going to keep what I really want to say in witness protection, because I don't know if you can really handle what I really want to say. And that's with sisters, but then you have other brothers that feel that way as it relates to brothers. And so you said a key thing that was really got my engines and my mind rolling. You said trust. Do brothers, or in your experience, have you found it hard not just to trust the sisters that are in our lives, but is it also hard to trust some brothers? Because you think if anybody ought to relate to a man, it ought to be another brother. But I'm learning that there are some brothers I can't trust being vulnerable to.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a hard question, because when you're talking about being vulnerable, being transparent, and you got to, at least with the relationship with, well, I guess it's about relationship with the women, with the women in your life and the men in your life. You want to make sure you have a climate that you can trust. You want to be able to show a level of transparency where you'll be able to articulate what's on your heart, because sometimes you're in the witness protection program. I like the way you frame that. Yeah. But I think at my age, I think now, and I wish I had the ability to do it earlier in my life, to be able to articulate to whether it's a male or female, what my concerns are. I have to be able to share with you what my concerns are. And I might even have to give you the parameters or the barriers in which I can receive from you. Because if I'm talking to my significant other, I need you to hear specifically what my issues are and why we're not connecting the way we should. Same thing with men. I need to share with you specifically what my issues are so we can connect. And if you're listening, we will connect. And if you're not listening, we're going to have conflict. So as an older gentleman, what I'm doing now with my wife or my significant other, I would hope that you are listening to the key points that I'm spelling out, so you'll be able to respond to me in such a way where I can receive whatever feedback you have from me. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir. Yes,
because there are times I will say X, Y, Z. For me to be whole, for me to be okay, I need communication to be X, Y, and Z. And when I hear other than that, I'm tuning you out. Or bro, when you come to me and your tone or the subject is so toxic, I can't handle that. Maybe I should fall back and spell it out to you. This is what I need to make sure that we won't have a toxic relationship. This is what I need to make sure that I can receive from you and continue in our trust and make sure that in this conversation, we can be transparent enough where we can get the outcomes that we want and everybody win.
Yes, that is so awesomely stated. I want to segue into this next subject matter as it relates to matters of the heart when men speak out. Remodeling manhood. So you look at the whole notion of, remodeling manhood. You look at the whole notion of remodeling. And so one of the things that, I watch a lot of HGTV shows where there's nothing but remodeling and all this other stuff. And I noticed that as it relates to some situations pertaining to a structure, some structures are remodeled because there's decay. However, other structures are remodeled not because it's decay, but because an upgrade is necessary. One of the things that I find is interesting amongst men is that camaraderie is very hard nowadays. Nowadays, you have brothers that feel the necessity to compete with one another. And so as a consequence, if you have brothers competing against one another, that is a clear indication that they have lost all focus and conviction on being a complement. Now they're competitors. Now, by nature, men are competitors. We have a competitive nature. But as it relates to brotherhood and manhood, in regards to other brothers and other men, why aren't we complimenting one another? Because again, if we have to compete, somebody have lost their own unique value as to what they present to a relationship. For instance, you and I, we are in relationship. We've been in a relationship for some time now. And one of the things that I can honestly say is we're in two different chapters of life, but yet the chapter you're in, I'm gleaning. The chapter I'm in, you're gleaning. And we're able to bring a unique value to the relationship because we understand that it's better for us to complement than compete. So, in regards to that remodeling, what are your thoughts about remodeling manhood in regards to relationships of the men, and then remodeling manhood as it relates to the image we present to sisters? Because the image we present to sisters sometimes, You know, here, okay, we're gonna go here because you know how you and I keep it. There's a notion with females, and this is the second part of the question. All men are dogs. Well, no, not all men are dogs. It could be the reality that you've never had an encounter with what's genuine. And because you've never had that encounter and you've reached your quota in wanting to keep pursuing a decent man, all men are dogs. So that's it. The first part about the notion to be a compliment rather than a competitor to men, and then that notion of how do we present an image of manhood that's healthy for women to receive.
When we, in my opinion, when you're talking about remodeling manhood, I like the way you presented. Hey, it could be because of decay. It could be at the beginning. It talks about relationships and relevance.
Yes.
So let's look at the point of being relevant, because old relationships or old the definitions of manhood, you know, for some it works, but not for all of us. So if you look at the illustration of a Fred Flintstone versus a George Jetson,
yes,
I don't want to stay a Fred Flintstone. I want to be able to gleam into a Wilson's kind of life and say, oh, what's working? What makes sense? How can I upgrade? I mean, that's how I think. The upgrade comes when I'm able to look at how others are doing things, make the adjustments, adapt to the things I need to adapt here in 2023, and make sure I'm able to move forward, make sure I got the skill set, make sure I got the lingo, the language, the understanding that I'm not competing with you. If anything, I want to offer you the compliment because I like your swag.
Sure.
I see what you're doing and say, I approve, baby. Help me learn how to do that there. Absolutely. Help me learn how to do that there. So in regards to whether it's an older man or a younger man, two thumbs up to you. Let me learn. Let me figure out how you're doing it. Let me embrace another way of getting it done. I'm not losing any, my self-esteem is still good, but I'm learning. I'm upgrading. I'm being remodeled as a man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was the first question.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got to tackle that second question, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all men are not dogs.
Mm-hmm.
The however piece is, I want my significant other to look at me in such a way where I'm using the same model. How can I upgrade? How can I adapt, adjust, and move forward? Because she's going to tell me what she like. She's going to say, oh yeah, I like that gray in your chin. I prefer you to be bald. Okay, I'm receiving, I'm adjusting, I'm adapting, and I'm moving forward. I hope I answered that correctly.
Man, I love how you stated about the adapting, receiving. One of the things that I think is so necessary for men to come to not only an awareness but a sobriety as relates to combating that mindset from some sisters that all men are dogs. Well, again, I'm challenged by that statement because one, you've never dealt with every man to know what a man is or isn't. It is. It is what it is. You've never dealt with all men can't be possibly dogs. It may be the type of man you're used to dealing with that may give off a bark bark, a ruff ruff. Um, at the end of the day, I think it is necessary.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. All women watching this, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, listen, sisters. Again, the title of it is Matters of the Heart.
The heart.
Not when boys speak out.
When men speak
grown
out.
men speak out. So again, it may be because I'm raising a daughter. I'm raising a daughter
Right.
is 18 years old this year, that is on her way to college. And one of the things that I am trying to do as a man that's raising a daughter, because I understand I'm the first relationship she develops with a man.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm the first relationship that my 18-year-old develops with a man. So off the bat, I have come to a conclusion of having a raw and open and honest conversation to let her know that my aim in being a man is to be a good man, but I'm not a perfect man. Certainly, I have scars to prove that I'm not a perfect man. However, I think it is necessary for, even as I try to model a manhood for my daughter, because I'm sure my daughter's very intelligent. She sees other presentations of what men look like. As it relates to the transparency and vulnerability. I have a relationship with my daughter that is extremely unique. I can go to my daughter, and I have gone to my daughter and shared with her how men have challenges. And so it's trying to create or present a model with my daughter, my 18-year-old, that no, I'm not a perfect man. However, even though, let me put it this way, good men are not born. They're developed.
Okay.
Good men are not born, they're developed. So just because there are so many images, again, social media and TV, of bad presentations of men, don't mean, again, that all of us have a rough that's being demonstrated. Now, rough, the potential to rough is in us, or the potential to roar as a lion is in us. It all depends on which one we're going to develop. And so it may be an issue that a lot of brothers or sisters are running into men who only produce the dog in them instead of the lion in them. And so it's
if that's what's being modeled, if that's what's being modeled, what I heard you say is that I am modeling the kind of behavior that I expect my daughter to emulate. So I'm not roaring and I'm not roofing. I'm showing her different aspects of what a successful, or at least in our mind, a successful model of what a man should look like in his responsibilities. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Because I'm at a place. Okay, my not only my son, it goes both ways. My daughter and my son have this common saying that, "Daddy, you're a crybaby," because at this stage now, I express my emotions and don't care. I'm trying to model for my son, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to share your emotions. I'm trying to model for my daughter that you want a man that don't mind sharing his emotions and opening up, because it creates an ability for you to reach his heart if you are able to have an encounter. But again, at a certain point, you have to be a safe place. And so, with the accountability, I think one of the things that I'm working on as a man, and I'm sure you agree, to be a better man, to model or remodel, because we got a lot of decaying brothers. And then to the contrary, we have a lot of brothers that we're trying to upgrade. It is every man's responsibility to monitor his mental health. It is every man's responsibility, because as Black men, we are walking targets. We're guilty without even committing the crime. You know, it is so much that, you know, sisters have a lot to deal with, but brothers do too. We have images of what a real man is. So nowadays, you know, I don't fit the criteria for this notion for some sisters, because, you know, I don't go through the process. But nowadays, you got to have a beard, and you got to have bald head, and you got to have muscles and biceps and triceps. I think for you and I, Wesley Snipes made being a dark-skinned brother, he made it a good thing, because he said always bet on black. And so, you know, back in the day, it was the Christopher Williams and Albie Shores and Heavy D's and the lights. But now Wesley came back for us. He said, look, always bet on black. So now you got the dark-skinned brothers, and because we got them good melanin. We got good melanin.
They're good melanin.
But for brothers, it's challenging, because a brother can have an identity crisis in regards to his own image, because of how somebody else view what a man should be or what a man should look like. So for you and I, you know, we ain't got the bald head thing going on. I can grow a beard. It just takes too long, and I cut it off every time. But I want to be able to reach a place where, for me, modeling manhood, and I'm sure you feel this way, is at the end of the day, I'm a good man. At the end of the day, I deal with my mental health. At the end of the day, I deal with my anger. At the end of the day, my aim is to deal with making sure if I fail, I can get back up again.
Yeah. Well, you touched that subject that, wow, you touched that subject twice. I mean, we just coming out of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we're dealing as men and everyone else, but men. Our mental health is everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how can we lead without at least having everything screwed on tight, or the ability to recognize, hey, I don't feel like everything's screwed on tight today. I'm not feeling like I normally feel something. I feel imbalanced. I think it's real important as we model, as we attempt to model excellence in manhood. Mental health got to be up top. It's got to be number one. I mean, we have to be able to help our children process how we're feeling, to help them process how they're feeling. I think that's real important in regards to remodeling manhood. I'm glad you touched that, because I think it's real important. People don't want to address it, but it's real. We have to deal with our mental health. I'm sorry if I went off course, but
no, it keep talking, bro.
But I think it's necessary. It's necessary, because now that you straight emotionally, physically, culturally, now you can pour into your daughter. Now you can pour into your son. Now I can pour into my grandchildren and the people around me who I have influence on. If I'm pouring crazy into them, then you know what's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to use crazy when you're using mental health, but that's what it is.
No, because it's one of those things. And this is necessary for anybody that used to or deals presently with self-esteem issues. Because again, it goes back to that. A lot of brothers have comparison addiction. And so any brother that's struggling with comparison addiction will miss his own unique quality and value, because he's comparing himself to
somebody else,
the muscles and biceps, but he might not have it. And we always see images of what a real dude, you know, back in, you know, I'm dating myself, but you know, you had sisters, I want a roughneck brother. I ain't gonna use that term. I want a roughneck brother. And so if you didn't present, if you don't have the testosterone and the voice and I know what that is to struggle with my own manhood and looking at my own self through cloudy eyes. And a lot of brothers are walking around with a bad case of cloudy eyes. They cannot see what somebody else might see because in their mind, they look a certain way. Like, somebody say to you, Charlie, you're a good looking brother. And that Charlie's, you aging like fine wine. But if your eyes are cloudy as it relates to your own perception of self, you're not going to be able to receive it. And it wasn't until for me, I had to get out of my own head. So you talk about that whole mental, I had to start working on becoming accountable as it relates to getting out of my own head. Now your boy, he look good now, man, but no, it was one of those things of I had to start being okay with it's one thing to make improvements, like I said, not because there was decay, but because I wanted to upgrade. So I like a certain look. I like a certain presentation. My wife is probably the best person to be able to. I like my shirts when I'm ironing it. It got to be ironed a certain way because that's the image that I'm not paying attention to others. That's just, I have a healthy perspective now. It wasn't until I started getting out of my own head and stopped listening to my own internal voice. You don't look as good as, I'm the best Philip Andre Wilson that Philip Andre Wilson can be. You're the best Charlie Taylor Jr. that Charlie Taylor Jr. can be. And once we have a confidence of self, we can walk with a different strut. We can walk with a different focus and mindset, because at the end of the day, I still have a village of elders in my life that are from the old school. And I had one of my elders say, no woman wants a jellyback man.
Oh, a jellyback.
She said, no woman wants a jellyback man. And what she was saying is, bruh, if a man can't have a certain confidence about himself, it's not believable to a sister.
Absolutely.
It's not arrogant. It's not pride. It's not narcissism. It's a reality of, okay, now, our conversations, you and I, okay, yes, we're part of the clergy, fellow, but you and I, anytime we having a conversation in not just us, but whoever we deal with, we talk in a way that anybody, don't matter your background, your color, your creed, or your religion. And this is what I appreciate about Lydia Chapman, creating an atmosphere. Yes, creating a conversation in a place where men can talk, and it don't matter where you come from. And so it's one of those things of understanding that we as men have so much to do as it relates, again, if it's some decay in our life, fix it. Because we can't keep complaining about something we have the ability to change.
Fix. Absolutely.
If that's the type of man that we are presently, fix those areas. If it's something in regards to, no, I need to upgrade, fix it. Because too often, I think you would probably agree, that we make excuses. And it's not about sisters getting upset about us making excuses. We should get tired of making excuses for our own self. I never had this. I never had that. The relationship that I don't have is, no, if we really, Charlie, the older I get,
okay,
the more I understand I need my son and daughter in my life, maybe more than they need me. And I'm working. It takes desire, it takes commitment, and it takes getting our hands dirty to construct the best image of a man that we want others to see. And it also takes, you said something about accountability. It takes being accountable ourselves to admit, I've dropped the ball as it relates to being a man. I've dropped the ball as it relates to being a father, as it relates to being a husband. But we'll never be able to fine tune, fix her up, make adjustments until we say, you know what? I need to remodel these areas of my manhood as it relates to not just outward relationships, but the relationship with myself.
Wow. Wow. Contrast and construct. I was listening to you when you was talking about contrast and construct. Man, if we don't do it, who will? If we don't do it, who's going to do it? You're going to, I mean, it's reassuring that your significant other or your wife tell you, okay, I'm glad you did go to K&G's and, you know, you looking a little better today. I mean, that's fine. But you want to be able to do that on your own. You want to be able to make sure that you can represent your family and those relationships in such a way where everything is working like it should. And I appreciate the fact that you're an example to your son as well as your daughter. I appreciate that about you, man. I really do. I really do. I can use some young swag. I can receive it.
But it goes back to that compliment portion that we were talking about in the previous segment. What I appreciate about our relationship, we complement each other because at a certain stage, if God continues to allow, here's those old people, my golden moments to roll on, I'm going to get to your age. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received from my road dog, my absolute heart was my grandfather, was this: do not make young men mistakes as an old man. Anybody that know me personally know my grandfather, and let me ease out of that because it hits a sore spot. Anybody knows me knows Joshua J. Cole was my absolute, that was my dude. That was my no.
I got you.
So there were 70-something years between an age gap between, or maybe 60-something years of an age gap between us, but I was able to glean, and in his later years, he was able to glean from me. And one of the things that I'm looking at, because brothers, we're not perfect and we have issues and we have challenges, but at a certain point, we got to man up and take responsibility. Now, manning up is not in the common vernacular, like, stop being a punk. No, I'm not talking about that. But stop making excuses. Take responsibility. Several years ago, my relationship with my wife and my children could have been completely demolished if I didn't go get help from a counselor.
Mental health.
To help me to start reconstructing manhood, because so much of my manhood was decaying because of my mother's passing. It started affecting my manhood. It started affecting other areas in my life. And it wasn't until I understood I need to go upgrade this version of me, because things as it pertains to my manhood, my mental health, everything. And I know it's taboo. Go ahead, bro.
No, I was gonna say, but what I'm hearing is that you took accountability.
I had to.
You took accountability. You took it. You said, okay, this is where I'm at. This is the situation. And how can I upgrade? One of the things that me and my wife, we often talk about is that we talk about moments where we're not seeing eye to eye. And one day she just left me in this room, and I begin to talk about wall experiences. Experiences. When you're looking at that wall and you reflect, when you're looking at that wall and she's not around, and you begin to hear voices telling you that you need to own up. You need to be more accountable. You need to make sure that you're doing the best that you can to make sure that she and everybody else see the best you that they can see. Man, that accountability piece is off the chain. I like the fact that we're here talking about it. I'm glad you gave me a chance to speak to the matters of the heart. I really am. Thank you.
Because again, I not only have a lot of respect for you, not only do I have a lot of love for you, I have a lot of admiration for you. I think again, and I wanted to have that gap because you're not that much older than me, but I wanted to have the mindset of an older man and from two different generations, being able to look at life and manhood. Because again, I never want to discredit your journey and the chapter of your life, because it's the church will put it this way: you'll understand it better by and by. Keep living. It's up the road. So my encounters with you as a man that's a little older than me, I'm trying to be a sponge, because I'm a firm believer as it relates to my construct and my development and remodeling as a man.
Man, I like
there's
that
some
word.
things I can avoid if I just have an ear to hear from a man who is not just speaking, but a man who is still trying.
Absolutely.
It's easy for me to glean and accept constructive criticism and advice from a brother who's not satisfied with where he is.
No, you can't.
You
shouldn't. You shouldn't. It shouldn't. You shouldn't. No matter how old you are, you should not. Because if you just keep living, you keep waking up, you should be able to. And I think that's one of the growth moves that I'm appreciative about, to be able to, as you use the term, glean into how other folks are doing things. Man, when I'm around you, I'm so excited. I shouldn't be as excited, but I'm really excited. Let me tell you why. Because I'm thinking, this is a smart young man. Not only is a smart young man, he has an old soul. And because he got an old soul, the wisdom that he has absorbed, hey, Charlie, you might want to get some of that right there. You might want to get some of that right there. And I appreciate the fact that you're saying, or you have shared, not only with me, but with others. I seek your wisdom. I seek your wisdom. Go ahead.
No, and that's a mutual feeling. Again, I appreciate our brotherhood because it's complementary. I'm at a place now where when you know what it's like to face loss, and in this regard, losing my family, for this man, that was a wake-up call. And it wasn't because of a request for perfection. It was a request to deal with what's eating away at you. And so often, again, so many brothers, the acknowledgement of what we never had and we were never taught, that's the acknowledgement. Okay, got it. But so many just stop at acknowledgement and have no desire to pursue. If there is no desire to pursue changing the narrative, like I said, everybody knows I'm transparent in the sense of my mom's passing affected me as a man, and it affected everything else. But everybody, that's not their issue. Some issues are just different things. And it's one of the things, again, I am trying my best to model what a good man looks like to my son, what a good man looks like to my daughter, what a good man is to my wife. Because I'm in that business place as a married man. I'm trying to do everything that I possibly can. So when it comes to understanding that part of my remodeling my manhood is apologizing to my children when I don't get it right. Do as I say, not as I no. Being able to say, you know, your father dropped the ball. And not having the superiority mindset, well, you're the adult. Now I'm raising young adults. And I want that relationship to reciprocate a mutual respect where at the end of the day, they can handle the undeveloped areas of my life because they see he's developed over here. And even though there's still some undeveloped areas, now, Daddy, we giving you grace because we see a construction sign. And so it's one of those things where it is so necessary, man, for us to develop that manhood. And I really appreciate your accountability piece. I don't want to stop you. You have anything else to add to that, man?
No, when you said grace, man, that's another piece that we forget to include. Because there are times when we don't hit the mark. We need to be able to grace ourselves. When we don't hit the mark, sometimes we go on low self. Oh man, poor me, blah, blah, blah. That's a shot against our mental health. But I like the term that you use, grace. There are times, all the time we need to allow a level of grace to ourselves when we don't hit the mark, because it just exposes our humanity. We're human. But if you don't give yourself the kind of grace that you would give your grandchild after they done knocked over your favorite vase at the table, if you don't give yourself the kind of grace that you would give a supervisor after misstepping and misspeaking in your presence, you still have to give yourself that same grace. I'm sorry, man. Go
No. I want to segue to our final installment of this conversation. But I will say this. My desire is not to be the greatest pastor. My desire is not to be well known and have my face on flyers. And that's not my desire. At the end of the day, hopefully when I'm old and gray-headed and my time ends, I want my children, I want my grandchildren, I want my wife, if she be the longest liver when I'm old and gray-headed, to say, Daddy was a good man. Because so often, especially, you know, we have the privilege placed upon our life to be clergy. I see so many pastors, I know so many homes that fell apart because the man was out doing revivals, but couldn't go to a basketball game. At the church, but couldn't go to PTA meeting. Listen, and I tell everybody this, my first assignment is to be Philip Andre Wilson Jr.'s dad and Gabrielle Andrea Wilson's dad and Krisha's husband. Y'all had all that other stuff. Because if my home base is straight, then I'm going to go, and so often we see a imbalance. All right, so let me go to the next segue. Because we're talking about matters of the heart when men speak out. I want to close our final closing moments with this subtitle: Men and the Women Who Love Them. Men and the women who love them. So sisters, I hope y'all eavesdropping in on today, hearing two vulnerable brothers out here. You and I are married men. We have females that are cousins. So you don't have to be married men like you and I. That's just where we are. But what would you say to a sister that loves a man, no matter if it's her son, her husband, her nephew, her brother? What piece of advice would you share with a sister that would better help her appreciate the man or men in her life?
Woo. Okay. That third component.
Yeah.
Now you got me take my glasses off, rubbing my eyeballs. That's the delay tactic right there. What would I say? Pose the question again.
For the man, for our sisters who may be eavesdropping in on this conversation.
You know they are, but go ahead.
Yeah. What would you say to a sister as it relates to the men that are in her life, be it her brother, her husband, her boyfriend, her nephew, her son, even a co-worker that she may work with that's a man? What advice would you give to her as it relates to what we would really want females to understand about us as men?
I think she should allow them to be themselves. Allow them to be themselves, and especially it depends on the relationship. And in any and all relationship, allow him to be the best sister. Allow him to be the best brother he can be. That means, sister, you need to share with him what your needs are so he can at least become in your mind closer to the brother that you're looking for, or the colleague in your mind. You need to be able to share with that colleague, this is what I need from you so we can have a good relationship going forward. If you are the aunt or the cousin, in regards to that role, I think the aunt needs to be able to say, hey, I need you to be this, that, and the other, nephew, so you can be a good nephew to me as your aunt, because everybody have different needs. And as a partner, a life partner, it varies. But allow them to be the person you need them to be once it's spelled out, and you work on that relationship, moving towards the final outcomes. Avoid all toxicity, if it's such a word. Remove all the toxic mess out of it so you can be the best husband, brother, colleague that you can be to that person. That's the best I can give you.
I love it. I love it. You said something that was so key, and it really made me think. I've been taking notes. We as men need to open up and say, I have needs too. I have needs. It's so easy in society, because I think society at the end of the day society is so much harder on men. If something happens in a relationship, and it don't matter if it's your girl or your sister, what he do? Well, I mean, why is it what he do? It could have been what she did.
How about
society is so much more graceful as it relates to handling sisters if they misstep. Well, if a brother misstep, we knew he was going to go. If a sister misstep, she had a bad day. Come on now. The pendulum don't swing the same. The balance is not balanced. But
right.
You said something that I think is really grabbing me by the collar, is making sure I communicate my needs. I communicate and I'm glad you said that. And that hit me. Communicating what I need, because we deserve that right to be able to communicate. Like you said, no matter what the relationship is, if it was a best friend or a sister, I think every man needs a good woman in his life. It don't have to be somebody that he's messing around with, just a good woman in his life that can be graceful toward him. And so communicating, brothers, I hope you're hearing this from this sage that's in my life, that I use as accountability partner in my life.
Man.
We have to communicate our needs. And so if you've never heard it, Charlie Taylor Jr. just put it out on the line for us. We have to have a boldness to communicate our needs. And my sisters, please do us the favor. Please hear us out. Because one of the surest ways to shut a brother down is to not hear his heart. And so this is what we've been doing, trying to communicate, allowing y'all to eavesdrop in on just a conversation between two brothers.
Man, thank you.
When men speak out. And so, Charlie Taylor Jr., I appreciate you, man. I love you much. Of course, you know, we will be continuing to chat and do our bi-weekly meetings that we have. But it's a joy. It is a joy and a privilege to have you in my life. I ain't gonna get emotional because I told you I'm getting older now and I don't take nothing. But I'm cherishing what God has placed in my life and who God has placed in my life, especially when it's a complementary relationship. Not you scratch my back, I'm scratching yours, but no, it's that genuine and there's no need to be competitive. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, to Miss Lydia Chapman. Thank you for providing an avenue for us to communicate in Lions Den. Thank you for allowing me to have this point of personal privilege to host Lions Den. Until next time, I am P. Andre Wilson, and this is Charlie Taylor. Take care, everybody.